What can you tell the American people that they just can't afford an extra $3 here and there about the government making up the difference from that? Will costs go up at some point? Will this just be temporary? Are we talking 3 months or 6 months?
Well, we certainly hear, and I appreciate, how I grew up.
I know.
I grew up in a family that often did live paycheck to paycheck, and we know a lot of Americans are worried. So we are fighting very hard to bring prices down. We're going to have the biggest deregulation in the history of this country. We're doing a lot of things and already have done a lot of things to lower the cost of energy. You heard the president mention this yesterday. Eggs, when we came in, were at a 10-year high, and all of a sudden they've dropped 60% just in the 2 months of the Trump administration. What I'd ask folks to appreciate here is that we are not going to fix things overnight. Yeah. Joe Biden left us, this is not an exaggeration, Lawrence, with the largest peacetime debt and deficit in the history of the United States of America, with sky-high interest rates. You don't fix that stuff overnight. We know people are struggling. We're fighting as quickly as we can to fix what was left to us, but it's not going to happen immediately. But we really do believe that if we pursue the right deregulation, we pursue those energy cost-reducing policies, yes, people are going to see it in their pocketbook. They're also going to benefit from the fact that foreign countries can't take advantage of us anymore. That means their jobs are going to be more secure.
So here's the thing. Do you know how long it takes yesterday, Donald Trump was out on the lawn, the White House, I think it was South Lawn, saying, we're going to get, people need to build cars and build plants here. And we're going to, even the foreign folks or whatever, they need to have plants here. Do you know how long it takes to do that? Do you know how long it takes someone to build a factory? That takes years. And he's telling you you notice he didn't answer the question. He said, how long is this going to be? Didn't really answer the question. Because he doesn't know. Or he knows. If this sort of bullshit trickle, whatever sideways that they usually do, the trickle down economics, if this works, it's going to take a lot longer than he is telling you. And the thing is that it's not going to work. And remember what I told you about the economy, and I told you about the tax cuts. We know it's tax cuts for the rich. We know these tariffs are taxes on the consumer. And if you don't believe me, if you think like, oh, Don, you've got Trump derangement syndrome and you just hate Donald Trump. Do you remember Mike Pence? Mike Pence was the vice president of the United States under Donald Trump. Now, let me show you what Mike Pence tweeted. Now, he carried Donald Trump's water for how long? For how long? This is what he tweeted. Tariffs could end America's golden age before it begins, spoiling America's golden age. This is from Mike Pence. The Trump tariff tax is the largest peacetime tax hike in U.S. history. Again, just so you know, I'm not being hyperbolic and I'm not just being a Trump hater. I'm telling you the truth because you're being lied to. Mike Pence, the former vice president, remember the one they wanted to hang during the insurrection? The Trump tariff tax is the largest peacetime tax hike in U.S. history. These tariffs are nearly 10 times the size of those imposed during the Trump-Pence administration and will cost American families over $3,500 per year. Check out Spoiling America's Golden Age, and then he gives you a link to it and points down. Mike Pence finally found his spine. It took him long enough. Maybe Karen Pence gave it back to him. Finally found his spine as he was shaking hands with the president at Jimmy Carter's funeral, and Karen Pence said, nope, I ain't got time for that. You wanted to have my husband unalived.
Tariffs have also led to political decimation. When McKinley most famously put tariffs on in 1890, they lost 50% of their seats in the next election. When Hot Smoothie put on their tariff in the early 1930s, we lost the House and the Senate for 60 years. So they're not only bad economically, they're bad politically.
Okay.
President Trump touted
Rand Paul, another, MAGA-ish sycophant, saying these tariffs are terrible. There you go. Listen, this is not even the gold standard. I would call him the platinum standard of Republican presidents. They love him. This is their God king before Donald Trump. Well, he was their God. Donald Trump is their God king. This is what Ronald Reagan said about tariffs.
Those of us who lived through the Great Depression,
The memory of the suffering it caused is deep and searing. And today, many economic analysts and historians argue that high tariff legislation passed back in that period, called the Smoot-Hawley tariff, greatly deepened the Depression and prevented economic recovery. You see, at first, when someone says, let's impose tariffs on foreign imports, it looks like they're doing the patriotic thing by protecting American products and jobs.
Pause. It'll last for a while. It'll last for a while. And then, boom, that's what happened with the Smoot-Hawley tariffs. Let's see what Ronald Reagan says.
Sometimes for a short while it works, but only for a short time. What eventually occurs is, first, homegrown industries start relying on government protection in the form of high tariffs. They stop competing and stop making the innovative management and technological changes they need to succeed in world markets. And then, while all this is going on, something even worse occurs. High tariffs inevitably lead to retaliation by foreign countries and the triggering of fierce trade wars. The result is more and more tariffs, higher and higher trade barriers, and less competition. So soon, because of the prices made artificially high by tariffs that subsidize inefficiency and poor management, people stop buying. Then the worst happens. Markets shrink and collapse, businesses and industries shut down, and millions of people lose their jobs. The memory of all this occurring back in the 30s made me determined when I came to Washington to spare the American people the protectionist legislation that destroys prosperity. Now, it hasn't always been easy. There are those in the Congress, just as there were back in the 30s, who want to go for the quick political advantage, who risk America's prosperity for the sake of a short-term appeal to some special interest group.
Come on now. Wait. Was Ronald Reagan reading the future? Look, I'm not a huge fan of Ronald Reagan, and I'm sure you aren't either. But on that point, he's right. And we have not learned from our history. Did Donald Trump not know this? Did all of the folks who are around him, Howard Lutnick and all the other Scott Bessent, do they not look at that? Reaganomics. I remember my parents struggling during the Reagan years. Yes, it was terrible. Okay, here's George Bush talking about tariffs.
What's interesting about our country, if you study history, is that there are some isms that occasionally pop up. One is isolationism, and its evil twin protectionism, and its evil triplet nativism. So if you study the 20s, for example, there was an American First policy that said, who cares what happens in Europe? Well, what happened in Europe mattered eventually because of World War II. There was Smoot-Hawley, which was a part of an economic policy, which basically said we don't want trade. In other words, let's throw up barriers. And there was an immigration policy that I think during this period argued we had too many Jews and too many Italians, therefore we should have no immigrants. And my point to you is we've been through this kind of period of isolationism, protectionism, nativism. I'm a little concerned that we may be going through the same period.
Again, two Republican presidents who Republicans loved and revered and still do. But apparently it does not matter to Donald Trump.
Thanks everyone for watching. Your support means the world to us. So make sure you hit the like button and you subscribe to our channel to make sure that you never ever miss a video. We're live every day, 10 a.m. Eastern time. We drop even more content at 2 p.m. Eastern and 5 p.m. Eastern. And if you want more Don Lemon Show content, we'd love for you to become a member of the Lemon community, where you will receive access to special community posts. You'll get exclusive content and members-only live shows. So head over to our channel page or click the join button on this video. Again, thank you for watching. We appreciate your love and your support, and we will see you next time.